Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. Well, I'm always looking for very special guests. And today, my guests are extra special because they work and live in a space that I love so much, the world of words. They represent authors, they represent Black authors, they have created spaces for us to enjoy the work of Black authors, and I want to tell you who they are right now. They are two distinguished figures on the literary landscape, Yona Deshommes and Max Rodriguez. Yona began her career at Edwin Gould Academy, pioneering educational programs for at-risk youth before excelling as Associate Director of Publicity at Atria Books, and that's a subsidiary of Simon & Schuster. Co-founding Riverchild Media and Collective 5 Entertainment, she achieved a New York Times bestseller just recently and continues to champion authors of color through initiatives like the Living Out Loud series at the Harlem Book Fair. Her contributions earned her Hermes Creative Award issued by the Association of Marketing and Communications Professionals. Max Rodriguez is the founder of QBR, the Black Book Review, having curated the premier platform for African Diaspora writers and recognized as the African American Literary Review of Record by the New York Times. As founder of the Harlem Book Fair and author of Sacred Fire, the QBR 100 Essential Black Books, he has been inducted into the Writers Hall of Fame at Chicago State University. Max's career spans nearly 3 decades as he is focused on elevating African American literature through editorial excellence and reader engagement, earning him prestigious awards for publishing and advocacy. Please join me in welcoming Yona and Max right now. Hello.
Hello.
So it's wonderful to be with you, and we go back in different ways. Max, I think maybe when you started QBR, it's been a long time. You started it when in the late 90s?
In the late 90s, about exactly 28 years ago, 2 years before I began the Harlem Book Fair. So right at the push when Terry was making her entrance with Waiting to Exhale, and there was an awareness all of a sudden of our voices and the market that followed our voices. So right then it was just a perfect storm where publishers, writers, and support around both of them just welled up, and I was happy and proud and fortunate enough to be part of that.
It's interesting you share that, because I remember this crescendo. Like when I wrote my first book, it was in 1993. No, 1995. I think. I can't remember one of those years. Actually, no, I do remember, because I got married a month after, so it was 1993.
Okay.
And the crescendo was beginning. Black authors were writing books, and I should say that book is Jumping the Broom, the African American Wedding Planner.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's amazing. That book changed my life, and apparently many others. I still meet people say, I used that book to plan my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I was at Essence, and there was a groundswell building for nonfiction and fiction books. And as you're saying, Max, by Terry McMillan, it was, she took Black publishing to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly it wasn't just Black people reading our books, it was everybody reading our books. And it was actually proven that publishers could make money, by investing in Black authors. And as we know, that's always a challenge to get folks to believe that whatever we're doing is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Yona, for you, we've known each other not as long, but we've been working together a lot, because I'll tell my audience, Yona provides many authors, Dream Leapers, and she is responsible for me speed reading so many books. So, because I always read the book from cover to cover.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But you were at Atria, which is the Simon & Schuster subsidiary.
Mm-hmm.
In the early days, as Max is talking about this groundswell, what did you see inside of a major mainstream publisher in terms of Black authors getting their due?
One of the reasons why I started working at Atria specifically is because I saw a commitment, to Black books. My first introduction to the Harlem Book Fair actually was working with HarperCollins, but then working, at Atria because there was such a commitment, to elevating the voices, Black voices. I finally was, in a place and space where a lot of my authors look just like me. So it was always inspiring, to work there. And there was an active program. We were always looking for different ways, to elevate, those voices. There was a commitment there. I think that's why I stayed at Atria, for as long as I did, because we had Judith Kerr, who was our publisher at the time. And I remember, sitting in so many meetings, and she was committed. She was really committed. And sometimes, like when we had that 2008, in publishing where so many imprints fell, a lot of editors lost their jobs, a lot of African American authors even lost their contracts, but we kept ours. So it was a good thing for me in terms of my career because it made me think, and I had to, really tap into my creativity and figure out, okay, how can I break through the noise, with all these different books. Now it's like all these spaces are smaller and smaller because a lot of newspapers disappeared. Online wasn't really a thing until it was a thing, later on. So, I learned so much, being in that space and having to figure out ways to break out these authors.
It's interesting you mentioned 2008, just in terms of people don't realize how economic changes and just things that happen in history. Like we can talk about the pandemic in a minute, but that the economic fallout from 2008 when the banks and the auto industry crashed impacted everyone.
Yeah.
And we often just don't think about who everyone is. And so you're just mentioning that authors, people, wow, suddenly there was this belief that you could earn a living as an author. That was a belief so much. I mean, this is a new idea for a lot of us that you could actually earn a living as an author. And then the bottom fell out. And also because remember the bookstores closed.
Yes, borders.
A lot of things happen. Max, I'm curious for you because when you look at the long view as to what has changed, again, when you started QBR and then Harlem Book Fair, we had many big book chains, many Black-owned bookstores and smaller bookstores around the country. When people were doing a book tour, you actually had a lot of places where you could go in order to present your books. What have you seen over time?
Well, all of that you both have mentioned, all of that certainly. What inspires me and always inspires me about the book fair is that it reflects who we are as a community. Because one thing, what has shepherded us through all of our challenges is our resilience. And so all of those things happened on the outside. It didn't stop us from telling our stories. We were challenged, right, in getting the books out into the market because, as Yona said, things became smaller. The platforms became smaller and smaller, but we still told our stories. Sometimes we'd have to sell them from the trunk of our car,
That's right.
Or setting up a small table on the corner of 125th Street in Harlem. And just as an aside, that really works because you know what they say about Harlem. You can set up a table on the corner, you'll always get a crowd.
It's true. It's true today, just like it always was. You're right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So everything that you say, absolutely. But I always sort of stand in the space of our resilience. We will always tell our stories. It's our stories handed down, through stories and now in books that have really set a foundation for us in our self-awareness, in our self-discovery, and our future vision of ourselves. So that's what I love about books.
Excellent. And I want to talk about Harlem Book Fair, but before we get to it, the build. um, when you think about, I want the benefit of your historical knowledge, Max, just in terms of Black authors getting to the point of building contracts and getting out there. What do you see as the evolution?
It's an evolution of relationships, of advocacy, both from traditional publishing, the advent of digital publishing, of the internet and access to that, just creating a wider platform for many voices. So that's what I see. It's really a relationship. Black book publishers like Africa World Press, Kasahun Chekol, Hakeem Mahabuti at Third World Press. Many of them have always sort of held a space for Black writers, just a pillar, a foundation. If all else fails, they always have sort of held that space for us. It was only about maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that for the first time, a contingency of African American publishers, including Haki, Paul Coates, Black Classic Press, myself included, we went to Cuba to participate in the Havana Book Festival. For the first time, there was, an expression of connection with Afro-Cubans at the Havana Book Festival. Unheard of. This is what has sort of unknowingly and unseen has sort of held a space for Black writers. And on top of that, there's work that Yona has done on the inside, making sure that our voices are heard, because the value of that is obviously the reach, the marketing reach, the voice that those traditional publishers give to our writers.
So let's go to that Cuba event a little more, because a lot of people don't know about that. And
Right.
This is a connection of the diaspora, which is really beautiful and celebratory, uplifting. What came of that? When you all were together, I'm sure that was a magical experience.
It was. So that's a great question. What came of that was that it was a moment. I don't know that, because this is where we come to resources, right? And allocation. Know that we had the resources to sort of continue and expand and build out the relationship. So that opportunity is still there. It was just a moment in time, but it was a founding moment in time. It's a space that we can revisit. And part of my conversation with Yona is, how do we create the Harlem Book Fair as a world-class book festival that holds a space for the African diaspora? What do we need to do to see the flag of nations, of Black nations, flying in Harlem, and having all authors come and tell their stories, because they are who we are. Those authors, they are our story. They are our whole story. One of our taglines is global I am. And that is the space in which we hold the Harlem Book Fair.
That's beautiful. Hey guys, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking books. We are talking with Yona Deshommes. How do we say your name, Yona?
It's Deshommes. You're correct. Deshommes. You got it.
Max Rodriguez. See, Yona has this beautiful French name, and so I say, as it's French, Deshommes, then I got it. So Yona Deshommes and Max Rodriguez, who are joining forces with the Harlem Book Fair, which Max founded many moons ago. How many years ago, Max?
Many moons. That's good enough.
Like many moons ago.
26 years ago. 26.
26 years ago, and it's coming up soon. So let's set the stage, Max. Why did you start the Harlem Book Fair, and what impact did it have in the beginning?
I began by publishing QBR, the Black Book Review, from an office in downtown Manhattan in Soho. And 2 years later, when I moved the business from Soho into Harlem, I realized there was no event that celebrated Black authors, the Harlem Renaissance, our stories. How could that be? So I began the Harlem Book Fair. And the response was galvanizing. It was electric, frankly. Uh, the first question was, because I was not a book person. I was not a book person. So that is, I'm always a reader, but I was not engaged in the publishing, right, in the publishing community. So the first question was the reaction was, oh, and who's Max Rodriguez? But Max Rodriguez was someone who was an avid reader. I would always read the New York Times Book Review, the Paris Review of Books, the New York Review of Books. And first thing I would do is I would turn to the table of contents to see what books looked like me. More often than not, there wouldn't be any at all. And that's when we began QER. But extending that out to Harlem and the book fair, it began sort of at recognizing a need that we as a community didn't know we had.
And where was it at first?
The first event was at the Harlem State Office Building on 125th Street and Adam Clayton Powell. We had 41 exhibitors and about 1,200 people. And at our height, we've been at over 300 exhibitors and 30,000 people over the weekend. So that is, I was sharing with Yona just the other day that sometimes I'm surprised. We received the registration from an author from Canada. We received one from Paris, another one from Nigeria. The reach of the Harlem Book Fair still amazes me. It's because it speaks to us. It sits in our core.
And where will it be housed this year?
It will be once again at the Harlem State Office Building. But I think I'm going to let Yona say more about the event because it's really awesome. I hate using that word, right? It's so trite sometimes, right?
Well, but awesome in its true meaning is quite expansive. So, Yona, tell us about the expansive vision you have for this year's event.
You know, when my partner, Kiev, we were talking about the Harlem Book Fair, and he just had an epiphany one day. So I have to give him a shout out. And he said, you know, we need to really work with the Harlem Book Fair. I was like, wait a minute. We haven't done a book fair. He's like, no. I'm telling you, I have a vision. We're going to do this thing. So I said, okay. So I gave Max a call, and we had this amazing conversation about growth and about development. And we were reminiscing about the days of old, so in our conversations, we came together, decided, you know what, we are going to work on making this grow. And, in our program, if you want to know, what's to expect, it's going to be over a few days, actually. We're starting with an event at the Caribbean Cultural Center on Thursday night. It'll be a more intimate setting, and we want to feature Haitian authors. And then for Friday, we have a VIP dinner that is going to be at the Red Rooster, and we're going to have an award ceremony as well. We're going to recognize, some people, in the industry. And then Saturday, we have, our full fair. We are so excited, about, this year's renderings. We're still finalizing, all of the, of the authors and, and the panels, but, it's not an accident. It's, as my partner says, serendipity, that it is the 100th anniversary of the Harlem Renaissance. So we also decided that the theme of this year's event was going to be the literary revolution. And revolution is actually spelled phonetically, which is an ode to the codes that, the enslaved Africans used to use, to free themselves in order to show them, the way, including like the songs and the hair braiding. So, we thought of revolution in its phonetics would be an ode, to that. So every panel that we have has that overall theme of, of revolution, whether it be love, whether it be social action, even, in fiction. So we plan to have a little bit of something for everyone. And for the first time, we're going to have an expanded children's corner, We want kids to be so excited because they have their own space, and it's more than just face painting. But we want to have, there's going to be author readings and activities, for the children. So we're really excited about what this is going to be this year and what it's going to eventually be. It's going to be bigger and better. And I'm just excited to be part of the team. And I was so grateful and happy that when I came to Max, with the idea of growing the festival, he just listened and he said, "Let's do it.
I
Let's
love
do it."
that. When it's right, it's right. What are the
Right.
dates? What are the dates?
The dates are, it's going to start, September 5th, which is that Thursday night, will be the events at the Caribbean Cultural Center. Then this followed by the 6th, which is the dinner. And then the actual festival is going to be on the 7th.
And so the actual festival on the 7th at the Harlem State Office building, is this outside, inside? Like how does it work?
It's going to be a mixture, actually. There is going to be a sound stage on the outside where we're going to have, some of the talks. We're going to greet people. That's where it's going to open. And then we have a partnership with the Harlem Renaissance, which is a few doors down. And we will be having some author panels and things there. And there's also a room in the Adam Clayton Powell office as well that we're going to have. But the recent news is that we have this amazing sponsor, Dr. Jamila Davis, who has graciously offered to help us secure the Apollo.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. So we're still finalizing that. And I'm almost afraid, to say it, but I believe in manifestation, because when we spoke to her, we spoke to her about this, and I was telling her, I met her at Essence, and I was telling her about what we were trying to do. And she said, "I'm in." She said, "I'm in." And then within days, we were introduced to these amazing influencers, Casey R. Kelly, and oh my God, I'm forgetting her name, Morgan Enzi, who are amazing influencers. We came together, had a meeting, and next thing I know, we were introduced to the councilman, Yusef Salam, and you know how busy he is. And she managed to get him on the phone, and we told him about what we were doing, and he said, "I'm in. You have my full support." So we're just getting incredible support, not even to mention the sponsors. We've got Atria, we've got Amistad, we have Walkstar, we have Bowker, of course, Dr. Jamila Davis. Who else do we have, Max? Who am I forgetting?
Oh, keep going, because I'm listening. I'm engaged.
I'm trying to remember all of our, because I don't want to forget any of our sponsors. I actually wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. Oh, Victoria Sanders and Associates, For Clay Productions. So, it's been amazing, and we're still trying to, secure sponsors, but everyone has been very, very supportive.
So, Max, the infusion of Yona's energy.
What energy?
I want to talk about the art of collaboration, because, not everybody welcomes collaboration, but I know, especially when you've been doing something for a long time, having that infusion of energy and partnership can really be reinvigorating. So describe to us what this is like for you, this moment.
Okay, this requires the long answer, not the short answer.
I'm good. We're ready for the long answer. We're listening.
So here's my first recollection of Yona. I met her while she was at Simon & Schuster at Atria. And when I came to her, when I would visit with her, she would always be a yes. That's Yona. She's always a yes, right? That's one. But she would always be sitting in her chair in her office, and it was a small office. And one thing I knew right away was this office can't hold her energy. This office is too small for her. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that most people who walk down the hall could feel when they're coming towards her office, because the energy would just radiate out the door. That's Yona. So yes, absolutely. Collaborating with Yona is a blessing. I love her vision, her team, her energy, her team's energy. But also, as you said, Harriette, I've done this for 25 years. And now here comes Yona's energy. And I have to take a deep breath. because energetically speaking, right? It required an alignment. And
Sure.
it required my having a conversation about what is the book fair and who am I in the space of the Harlem Book Fair? And the answer was open it, give it away, frankly. Give it away. Do not stand in the way of the Harlem Book Fair.
Hmm.
Because I know that the Harlem Book Fair is an energy that serves us. Right. And so Yona aligns with the vision of service to community, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially in the case of writing. So it was truly a match made in spirit.
I love that. And it's important, when you can work together with people, you have more than one creative mind
Mhm.
focused on something. Again, part of why I was asking that too, Max, is with legacy businesses,
Mm.
sometimes we can get stuck, so I've been doing the thing in a particular way for a long time. And what do we do in this year? What do we do based upon all the things that have impacted the world? And sometimes having somebody come and work with us who wasn't doing it before just brings a new perspective and fresh energy, which can be extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As it is in this case. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yona?
and what I said to Max, when I approached him, I said, "This is a passion project for me." A lot of people don't know that I came from education, so me coming into publishing was a second career, and the Harlem Book Festival was my first experience being in a place and space where it was about us and it was about community. And when I transitioned over from traditional publishing, into Riverchild Media, one of my missions was to continue the work, with our authors, but in a very different way, something that's more meaningful and impactful. Because publishing, when it comes to promoting, our authors, sometimes it could be a hit or miss. There's countless articles about what they do right or they do wrong, and I want to look at it from a slightly different perspective. Instead of pointing fingers and saying, okay, this is what you're doing wrong, let's create a space to show them how it can be done right.
I love
And
that.
Harlem Book Fair gives us the opportunity to do that, because I'm inviting all of the major publishers. Come, I know it's been a minute, you know, come and see the talent, because we have an array. We have those who are self-published, who are just starting out, and those who are, megastars, and everything, in between. There's so much that we offer, and they have to see that we can create a space where we all can come together, where people can see the authors that they love and discover ones that maybe they didn't know about. And
Mhm.
this can be the place. And the fact that it's in Harlem, I mean, that in itself is revolutionary. When you think about the Harlem Renaissance, when you think about, people like my soror, Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes, and all the things that happened during the Harlem Renaissance, what we're doing is it's a rebirth. I feel like we're recreating that Harlem Renaissance energy. It's like we're calling on the ancestors. And because we literally started about what, 6 weeks ago when I came to Max? And honey, let me tell you, the ancestors are
Fast.
talking. They're talking. Because when I started knocking on doors, people were opening them and they were saying yes. People thought I was crazy. They were like, I don't know, Yona. It's in September. Budget's already allocated. La 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 la. And I was like, y'all forget who you're talking to? And it's been amazing. So I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, Riverchild Media is supposed to be doing in this time and in this space, because you talked about legacy, Harriette. This is going to be part of all of our legacies. I don't care if anybody remembers my name, you
Right.
know.
But it's our authors in the Mecca of Harlem. Hey, everybody, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking books, African American authors, our legacy. It is such an important conversation, especially today. And we're talking with Yona and Max about the Harlem Book Fair, as well as just, I want to talk about the future of our books. So we know that some authors, and a number of them are Black authors, we've seen books yanked off the shelves in 2024. We have seen books being banned like they were in World War II. And so I'm very curious as to your thoughts about what's happening to this freedom of expression and the challenge of freedom of expression. So Yona, why don't you start and then we'll go to Max.
You know, it's very scary for me when I see what's happening, you know, in our society, especially for the children. I think those are the ones that I'm most worried about, where our histories are literally being erased, you know, and these books that, you know, we grew up with, you know, with these authors that have inspired us over the years. Now it's becoming illegal, you know, for them to even be taught, you know, in schools, which is why, you know, festivals like this are even more important, because no matter what happens, you know, in November and what decisions are made, we as a community have to pick up the mantle. We can't wait for someone else to give us permission. You know, we need to, you know, to continue to, you know, promote our authors, share it, you know, with each other, share it with our children, you know, because we're in a society where, you know, they're looking to take those, you know, things away from us. You know, so I think it's really important for us to come together, you know, as a community and continue to, you know, share each other's work and promote each other's work before it literally is taken away.
And Max, what are your thoughts about this?
You know, I certainly agree with that. I have a slightly different perspective. I look at it from the opportunity, you know, point of view. As Yona said, you know, it's incumbent upon us to ensure that our stories are told. I think that's absolutely true. Everything else is being politicized. I understand that there's an agenda that's being, you know, attempted, it's being imposed. But that does not absolve us of our responsibility to ensure that we know who we are, that our stories are told. I don't know that I expect a different place to be from today than we were hundreds of years ago. It will look different, but in terms of being received, it goes back to what Yona said, what you said, Harriette, our dance. Yona said, she said, let's show them. I say, let's show us. And between Yona's let's show them and my let's show us, we're coming. We're coming at you, you know. And the you is not the they. The you is us. We're coming at you. We're coming at you because that's who we are. We know who we serve. And in serving us, we serve and contribute to the world. We contribute to world's awareness of its humanity. And that's who we are. And that's our voice.
You know, you mentioned the diasporic focus that you hope to have for the book fair, including, you already mentioned a few authors from different countries who have expressed interest, and hopefully there will be more. It reminds me, you know, I interviewed Julius Garvey, one of Marcus Garvey's sons.
Yep.
And a fascinating man, but he was talking about his father and how his father understood the power of the diaspora. And that if we really did band together with our brothers and sisters across the waters and understand the universality of our connection and the power of that connection, what might happen? Well, we also know that is probably why he was banned from this country. Not probably, that is why. But he didn't give up. And there have been many who have said, look, if we connect in this way, what can happen? And so I'm curious, Matt, as we think about the Harlem Book Fair, you chose to put this in Harlem 26 years ago. Harlem has changed a lot. I live in
Mm-hmm.
Harlem, in Harlem for more than 30 years. Uh, as Harlem is changing, what are you hoping this glue and connectivity can be for the Harlem Book Fair in a changing Mecca?
The Harlem represents, well, Harlem is certainly is obviously a geographic space, but the history of migration into Harlem speaks to the story of every aspirant, right? Of every one of us, our families who tried very hard and succeeded in finding a way out of nowhere. And
Mhm.
so our migration from wherever we might have been into places like New York and Chicago for whatever reasons, industrial work, whatever education, whatever it might be, it speaks to our resilience, our vision, our love of ourselves, taking care of our families, our desire for education, our vision for ourselves and the future for our families. This is what the Harlem Book Fair represents. And irrespective of who resides in Harlem,
Mm-hmm.
will always hold a space for Black aspiration. It is,
Mm-hmm.
it holds that space for us. It is our foundational space for our self, for our self vision. Yeah.
And Yona, back to this sort of two-sided vision that you all have talked about. You looking to one audience, Max saying, it's us. That includes everyone, which is really beautiful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the messages that come from our authors,
Mm-hmm.
that while they absolutely are important for people in the Black community, what impact do you think these stories have on the larger community? Our
Well,
story.
well, I think it gives them an opportunity to see us, in a light that perhaps, they wouldn't or couldn't. You know, my mom used to always say, you can feed someone spinach, right? And you taste it, it's nasty. But sometimes with a little honey, you saute with a little garlic, it becomes palatable. I just feel like, you know, this is a space for us to come together. Like Max was saying, irrespective of who's there, I feel like, what? It's time for y'all to come at our table. We have been scrambling for so many years, to be at someone else's table. And I feel like we are creating our own. And now we're inviting other people to come sit at our table, learn something from us, sit and have conversations with us about our work, about our passions and things that we do. I like having this table. I'm so grateful to Max, for him having built it, all these years. So now we're polishing it up. We're giving it, a new coat of paint, and then we're inviting other people to come and commune and speak and dialogue with us.
You mentioned that there will be self-published authors along with authors who are from more traditional publishing companies.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit, because look, just about everybody I meet wants to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you can publish a book yourself through
Mm-hmm.
a self-publishing vehicle is helpful to understand. But let's talk about what works. If
Mm-hmm.
one decides, I want to write a book, I want to publish it myself, what makes a book worth buying
Mm-hmm.
when you do publish it yourself? What should we think of as parameters for that?
I mean, the first thing is the quality of writing. That's the first thing. And one of the things that we're going to be doing, with the Harlem Book Fair, starting with the fair and beyond, is creating these opportunities where we can teach. Because a lot of people don't know how to self-publish well. Back in the day, if you were self-published, people kind of looked at you with a
Yep.
side eye because they felt, oh, that you couldn't get, a traditional, book deal. But we all know that's been disproven. That there have been a lot of self-published authors that have been picked up by major publishers. Things have been turned into films, and all of that. So I think that it's really important for us to also provide opportunities for them to learn. First, the writing has got to be on point. Do your due diligence. Make sure that it is edited properly. And then, ask yourself, who's the market for this book? Who's writing, in this space? Because I can't tell you how many times people will come to me with a book and I'm saying to them, have you kind of researched and see that there's like 50 books exactly like yours? What makes yours stand out? So those are some of the things, that I could talk about. And, God knows that's a whole workshop. I can go into a whole conversation about what works. But I will, end it by saying this. We are going to be creating opportunities for authors, whether you're just now, whether you've had a book, because there's always something to learn. We're going to be providing opportunities and workshops where we're going to be teaching these things, social media, TikTok, and there will be some panels that are going to reflect all of those things where people can actually come and learn. What is the question people always ask me? Yona, how do I promote my book? That's a huge, huge, huge topic. Yes. There are going to be panels, and conversations that are going to, help people, whether you're self-published or well-established, in how to do that.
I think that's so important to me. I knew that I wanted to be a writer since I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. I literally used to write poetry and put it in a shoebox and stuff it in my closet. And the poetry has never been published, but over the years I have published 7 books. So, it is happening, and we're, dancing around the idea of what's going to be next. But I'm mentioning that because my first book I did not publish until 20 years after. My heart told me I was going to write a book. Because I wasn't ready.
Right.
I think you want to write a book, but you have to have something to write about. You have to have perfected your writing skills enough for it to be good enough for anyone to want to read it. And all of that takes time. And I think patience is something that is important to share with people who are interested in writing, and also learn how to write. I have a friend who told me, Sheila Bridges, who is an incredible interior designer and creator. She, a number of years ago, decided that she was going to write a memoir. She's a great writer, but she wasn't a memoir writer. So she took a memoir writing class.
Right.
I remember her telling me, I'm going to take a class so that I can get everything that I need to get so that I can write the best book possible. And she wrote an amazing book. And I think it's called The Bald Mermaid. And the point of this is it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how successful you may be in one field or another. If you want to write, learn how to write.
And also do the research. There's so much, there's, I work as a consultant, there's so much, research out there. And I tell people, because I think a lot of writers are in a rush to put it out there. It's like they write it and they don't do their due diligence. They don't do the research. They don't get the proper the editor. They don't have an idea of how to market the book. I've had authors who didn't even know who their primary audience was. And if you don't know who your primary audience is, you have no idea how to really promote it. So those are some of the things, that I tell, new authors. It's like, learn the business.
Well, this is such a good point, because as an author, you think your responsibility is to write that book. And it is. That's fun.
It is.
And that's a whole different head. That's a quiet space. You need to be quiet. Yes, you need to have done your research. By the way, even if you are a fiction writer, if you don't do research, where is that story placed? What is happening in that space, and what makes sense? All of that is important in the research. But then you have another hat, the marketing hat, the promotional hat. Is it complete? It requires different muscles to be developed in order to do that well. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to have panels that talk about these different components, because as an author, you have to be a business person too.
Absolutely.
And many people don't realize that. Let me remind you, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking about the Harlem Book Fair coming in September. So right after the summer's over, you can come to Harlem and have the experience of just immersing yourself in this wonderful gathering of authors and words and stories, and learn about the book publishing industry as well. We're so happy, Max Rodriguez, that you created the Harlem Book Fair, and Yona Deshommes for bringing your energy with Max's energy to make this happen. Max, over the years, who have some of the authors been who have graced the stage of the Harlem Book Fair?
Oh my, you can imagine, Harriet, over 25 years. Sonia Sanchez, Maya Angelou, Walter Mosley, geez, just too many to mention. To mention one and not the other would be, I'd be getting a phone call. So I just want to say that the book fair has held, has been home to just about every writer that you at some point in your reading career, that's book language, right? Us Eggies, right? We book reading career, right? So the Harlem's Book Fair stage has held just so many. I can't think of the exception. I will speak to the exception. I've never been able to align our schedule with Edwidge Danticat. So I'd love to have Edwidge come in, but geez, I can't.
Hasn't worked yet.
Yeah,
we're putting it out into the universe. Edwidge.
Well, she's in New York. And she teaches at Columbia. So
Terry McMillan, just everywhere. I do have a quick story. Do we have time for a quick story?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay. So I was invited to a publisher's luncheon for a children's book that was being released by written by Toni Morrison. And so here's my Toni Morrison story. She was about to speak, and she turned over to her assistant, and she said, "I wrote my notes on a napkin. Do you have that? Or has anyone seen that?" Nobody was going to say, "Oh yeah, I have it. That was a keepsake." I'm sure that was found, on the internet being auctioned off somewhere. So that's my Toni Morrison story. We were never able to bring Toni Morrison into the book fair space, but that's also a missing for me personally, right? I love her books and her writing, but everyone has been gracious in lending their time to the book fair. They understand what it is.
And who are some of the people that we are expecting to come now? I know the roster isn't set yet, but who are some of the names, known and unknown, who you expect to show up at this Harlem Book Fair?
Well, we have Ijeoma Oluo, who is a New York Times bestselling author. We have Natasha Alford, who is a CNN political analyst. Reagan Jackson. And who else that is actually confirmed? There will be an announcement soon, but those are the three that we know that are absolutely confirmed. But there is so much more to come. That until they actually say yes and they sign to the dotted line, I'm always afraid to actually say there's more.
I just want a little taste. I just want a little taste. And so you have fiction, nonfiction. You have
we have some poets as well, Anastasia Renee, and we have Cynthia Manick, as well in the poetry space. So it's really going to be. We have Mike Africa Jr., who's going to be doing an amazing book called On the Move. This also speaks to that whole revolution. We have Dr. Solange Vivens and her book, Girls Can Move Mountains. She's an incredible woman, Haitian immigrant who basically went from being an illegal immigrant to a millionaire. And, she's so inspiring. We're looking forward to having her speak. So, as we confirm, we'll start, putting names out there, but it's a very eclectic mix, of authors, fiction, nonfiction, and a few surprises.
And how can people find out more? Yes. What were you going to say, Max?
Thanks. I knew that we were closing out just a bit, so I wanted to go back to the conversation that you had with Yona, and I want to, lower the bar. This is part of that two-step that Yona and I do. And we were talking about you have to know how to write, and so my thing is always this. I tell authors write stories, editors write books. So tell the story. A book is a product in the marketplace. You don't know what a book is. You do know what your story is. An editor, what a book is. And that editor will shape it to market standard. So tell your story, find a great editor.
Very good. And where can people learn more about the Harlem Book Fair? Do you have a website?
HarlemBookFair.com is our website. Straightforward, straight to the point. You'll find us there, and we will be posting up. We will post updates as they develop. So please come to the website. Just sign up for the updates, and you'll have them delivered to your phone, to your email, however you'd like that to happen.
And also follow us on social media at Harlem Book Fair as well, where we will be posting, updates for the Harlem Book Fair as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Max, for having a vision to create the Harlem Book Fair from the beginning. Yona, thanks for your infusion of energy. I know she's a dynamo, Max, so I know what you got. And I can't wait to see you all at the book fair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriette. Thank you.
And thank you, all of you, for tuning in. I hope you are as excited as I am. It's September 5th, I believe, is the first day. It's the weekend. Please join us. I'll be going there too at the Harlem Book Fair. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.